I don't know about you, but I am ready for some spring football. I have been waiting and waiting and waiting to do this. I am ready. I'm excited, but it is now time to start our spring outlooks. Spring outlooks finally happening. We got through our list of the top 50 games of the 2023 season. Go back and watch the last few episodes on Tuesday, but we're finally kicking it off with 2024 action and coverage in college football. Welcome to Pigskin Frenzy on this wonderful and beautiful day here, or Tuesday here for Pigskin Frenzy. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joel Norris, and whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, listening on Apple, or listening on Podbean, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by me. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple, all you have to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. X, Instagram, and Facebook. Just go on there, follow, like the pages. You will get episode updates. You're going to get news and highlights from across college and NFL football. You are going to get trivia questions on Instagram stories. Go and answer today's college football one, as well as all things up to date for Pigskin Frenzy. If you want more things up to date, and if you want to know which platforms to watch, even though I just told you the platforms to watch, you can go and select your platform on, why not, our new website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. You want to get to know who I am, there's a home and about me page. If you want to contact me, you will send me your message and email. I'll try to get back to you and get onto it, maybe even on the show if you wanted to. Store coming soon, affiliations, which leads us to our proud partners here on this show. And not only that, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. So go and check out the website. Merchandise coming soon, affiliations page, go and click on that as well. All things today for Pigskin Frenzy on that website. Now, our proud partner, if you guys, I'm just going to sit there and tell you, because let's just face it, their products are amazing. It's making me feel comfortable, makes me smell great as well when I get out of, having a morning shower or, nightly shower, whatever shower you want to have. Not only that, if you want to look good facial hair wise, men and significant others for your men, you're going to want to get these products. The Beard Club, beard growthing kits from the Beard Club. It makes my beard look great. I have my beard right now. Makes it feel soft, makes it feel, nice, firm to your face, and it meets my grooming needs. 25% off. Spring 25 is the code right now if you want to use it at the Beard Club. Go and click my link. Go to my link tree on my Instagram, Facebook, or X. Click the link tree and go through there to the Beard Club to get beard grooming kits and or other product needs for you. If you want to click on my website, go to my website on the affiliations page, click on the Beard Club logo. It'll take you straight to the Beard Club, and you will get your beard and facial hair needs met. Your grooming needs will be met with the Beard Club. The Beard Club, proud partner of Pigskin Frenzy. Thank you guys so much for what you do, and go get some products. Make yourself look great, guys. Make yourself look great. Spring 25 is the code. Use it. Beard Club. Go to my website and or go to my link tree and click on it and meet your grooming needs. College football day today. College football day today, guys. Let's talk about some ball. I am ready to go. I am pumped and fired up. We're going to talk about 5 teams. We're going to get 4 outlooks, and one already had their spring game, so we're going to talk about it. And I watched a little bit of it last night, and we're going to talk about it because I was thinking to myself, man, we do need to talk about them because I'm curious to see what they're going to do in the secondary, and I'm curious to see what they're going to do in the running game. We're going to get to them, and we're going to hear in a little bit. 5 teams: Missouri, Alabama, NC State. That's 3, 4, Auburn, and 5, Clemson. 5 teams today. We're going to discuss our spring outlooks and one game result. Missouri had their spring game on March 16th. They had it last weekend. The rest are having theirs in April and early May. So let's get down to it, and let's talk about the one spring game result. Let's talk about that before we do our outlook. Spring game result for the Missouri Tigers in Columbia, Missouri, in Barrett Field. Black and gold team spring game. And here we go, Eli Drinkwitz. And who would have thought? Because if you want to recap everything, who would have thought going into this spring, it's a little bit of a confidence boost. It is a little bit of a confidence boost if you're Eli Drinkwitz and the Missouri Tigers. Why? Because of what happened last season. Rewind the clock. Last season, I had them in my preseason conference standings. I had them on Pigskin Frenzy last summer going into the 2023 season. I had them 6. I had them 6. Second to last in the SEC East. They finished second in the division. Second in the division. They went to a New Year's Six bowl game and won 11 games. 11 games. They were this year's Tennessee. Tennessee in 2022 won 11 games and finished second in the East. That's how Missouri was. They had a good offense. They didn't have an offense like LSU. So if you want to talk about offense and resemblance, LSU and Tennessee's offenses were similar. But if we're talking about just overall record and team and what happened, and based on what happened, you look at that and you're thinking they're just like Tennessee of 2022. 2023 Missouri was an excellent team. Brady Cook was an underrated quarterback. He's back now. He's back with Missouri for his final year. Cody Schrader was an animal at running back. Theo Weiss, a solid receiver, transfer receiver from Oklahoma. And then you have the dog himself, the junior, now junior wide receiver, sophomore last year, Luther Burden III. Probably one of the most dynamic, top 5 dynamic players coming back in the SEC. If you want to rank that and if you want me to give you a ranking on that, I will gladly give you a ranking. Just message me or comment and tell me what my thoughts are on that, and we'll talk about it. Missouri was on top, and no one knew about it. And I talked about it in my list of games. Kansas State was one of them. It started with Kansas State. No one knew what Missouri was capable of. But they sure as heck were going to tell you and show you what they're capable of now, were they? Eli Drinkwitz put up a good season, coached one of his best coaching seasons yet, and he did really, really well at Missouri last year. They went to the Cotton Bowl. Was it a masterpiece offensively? No, it wasn't. Good defensively, poor offensively. But guess what? They found a way to get it clicking late in the game. Cody Schrader got the ground game going. And I kept saying that. Run the ball even more. Ohio State's lost their quarterbacks. They have a third-string true freshman playing. Run the ball. They're not going to run their offense like they normally do. And they lost Marvin Harrison. Run the ball, man. Run the ball. And sure enough, they ran the ball. Cody Schrader ends up giving them a lead, 2 touchdowns, 14-3. Missouri beats Ohio State to win the Cotton Bowl, finish their season 11-2. Guys, Missouri, solid team, by the way. Only lost to two teams last year, LSU, Georgia. That's it. LSU, Georgia. They beat Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. Congratulations to them. Now, if you want to look at their spring game, because when you look at their spring game and when you look at what they did, it brings questions. It really does. It brings questions, because then you're going to sit there and say, okay, number one, how are they going to address the running back, kind of hole, right? Well, let me tell you about that, because they addressed it. I don't know if you saw Georgia State last year. If anybody did, they had this guy at running back. He's an animal. I've seen him. I thought he was an animal last year at the Sun Belt level with Marcus Carroll. Marcus Carroll, an absolute animal, and another running back at the Sun Belt level at Appalachian State in Nate Noel. They got two stud running backs at Missouri right now who just transferred in, coming up in the 2024 season. And they're replacing Cody Schrader. Marcus Carroll's an animal. I would assume he gets the start. They both look good during the spring. I want to give you my spring game results from what I saw. Brady Cook and the black team led a led a tight window 10-9 win for the black team against the gold in the Missouri spring game. And here are my results and what I liked from Missouri and what I think they should clean up on a little bit going into 2024. I was concerned about the running game, like I said. I was concerned about the secondary because they lost some two good players in the secondary, and Enos Rakestraw and Chris Abrams Drain. They lost both of those guys. Left school, go to the draft. They lost two of them, but they replaced them. They replaced them, and they got some two solid corners who did okay, but in a little bit of a tight area. Need to clean up on some things. Drayton Norwood and transfer from Clemson, Toronto Pride from Clemson, the secondary defensive back from Clemson, coming in for the Tigers. Both of those guys did good. Pride was really, really good. He looked experienced and he looked poised out there in the secondary. I think Norwood played okay, but he missed a little bit of coverages and blew up a little bit of coverages, in the spring game. So I think he needs to clean up on some. I think his zones is great. I think manning up is what he needs to do better a little bit. But when you look at him, he looked fine. He didn't look bad. He's going to be a good threat come fall camp. He just needs to play a little bit more. That's all it is. Drayton Norwood needs to play a little bit more. Pride looked good. Norwood looked good. Brady Cook looked okay. He didn't look great, but he did okay. Just a little bit of a rust coming off because he haven't played since January. You haven't really played a whole lot since January. It's been 2 months. I'm sorry, December. You haven't played since December. So it's been going on 2.5, 3 months since he played. So Brady Cook didn't look the best, but he didn't look bad. So he's going to get better. He's a solid quarterback. He'll get better for the 2024 season. He's their guy. There's nothing to worry about with Brady Cook. It was he made a couple of mistakes and bad decisions, but he just got to get back in the swing of things. That's all it was with Brady Cook. To address the running back concerns to replace Cody Schrader, I think they did just that in the transfer portal. I think Missouri did that in this spring game with Marcus Carroll from Georgia, coming in from Georgia State, Nate Noel coming in from App State. Those guys are absolute ballers. I think they're going to be a real problem for defenses going into the 2024 season, and they showed that during spring practice and during spring in the spring game. Marcus Carroll, Nate Noel, a dynamic threat at running back for both. You can rotate guys in and out now. You had Cody Schrader in there, right? You had Cody Schrader in there doing a majority of the work. Now you got two running backs along with, Theo Weiss Jr. and Luther Burden, the now junior Luther Burden III. That's going to be some issues. Missouri's going to cause a little bit of issues on offense for some of these defenses out there. I think there are some teams who look at Missouri and have them on their schedule, and they're thinking, ooh, this is probably going to be a little bit tricky. And it is going to be a little bit tricky. I think Eli Drinkwitz is going to cause a little bit of a problem for some teams. Do I think that they're going to win the whole thing? I don't know. But I'm going to tell you this. They play like they did last year. That 12-team playoffs calling them. They're saying, hello, Missouri? Yeah, this is for you. House call for Missouri. House call for Eli Drinkwitz. They're saying that if they keep putting up the talent like they have been during the spring with the portal, and not only that, if Drinkwitz coaches like he's just coaching for his life out there like he did last season, and they play with that we got nothing to lose mentality, it's gonna be kind of hard to beat Missouri. Just putting it out there. Another one, Chris McClellan looked really, really good. I think Chris McClellan, the Florida transfer, defensive lineman, he transferred to Missouri. He from Florida. He looked really, really good in black and gold. He did really, really well playing first team reps for defense. He's really physical, really, really physical. I think what he needs to work on a little bit, just a tiny bit, is his like when he starts to play and he starts to go and starts to play it takes them a little bit to try to get on the attack, to get after the quarterback, to add a little bit of pressure. Just pressure a little bit more. I think he needs to pressure a little bit more, and that's really just about it with Chris McClellan. Other than that, it's a good pickup for Missouri. They look good overall on both sides of the ball. I really didn't think too many mistakes happened besides Price and Norwood. They probably need to, man up a little bit more and work on their man coverage, but that's about it. Not really a lot. I like the running game. I like Brady Cook. Brady Cook made a couple of bad decisions, but that's okay. He just got to practice a little bit more, and he's got to get back into the groove of things a little bit more. And look, and Chris McClellan, defensive lineman, all he needed to do really was put a little bit more pressure. That's all we got to do. That's all he has to do, and he'll be fine. Missouri looks good. Let's see how they do in the fall. I am curious to see. They look good in that spring game on both sides of the ball. There's some stuff that needs to be cleaned up, but that's going to be a lot of teams. That's going to be a lot of teams going into the fall. That's going to be a lot of teams going into 2024, especially in this new era of college football. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens with Missouri. Let's see what happens with, let's see what happens going into 2024 and to fall camp. Missouri looked good. Their spring ends early after, scheduling it on March 16th. So Missouri looked good. Let's talk about spring outlooks now. That was our spring result for game 1 there. Let's talk about spring outlooks. And let's talk about something that we need to see from the hedges, going into the hedges. Auburn football, their game is at 2 p.m. on ESPN Plus, Saturday, April 6th, 2 o'clock p.m., ESPN Plus, Auburn. Auburn is on ESPN Plus. We're going to dive deep into this one because we need to, right? We need to dive in deep into this one. The big concern is play calling. That's for one. Philip Montgomery is no longer there. Hugh Freeze, the head coach of the Auburn Tigers, will be calling the plays. What's it going to look like? What's their offensive scheme going to look like? That's my big concern going into the spring for Auburn. How physical are they going to look? I think the physicality is what got me with Auburn, and I'm going to tell you why. When I saw them play, and this is one game that I saw them play, two, there's a couple of games. The New Mexico State game, which I don't know if we really need to talk about that even. The New Mexico State game, that was one game where they weren't as physical. But one game that I was kind of surprised at, and you're probably going to think, why? They looked so good on offense this year. It was LSU. And even though LSU looked great on offense, guys, go back to 2019 and watch LSU, okay? Auburn had a fantastic defense. I know Auburn didn't have the same defense this year than they did in 2019. They had Derek Hall and all these guys. But look at LSU's 2019 offense. The talent was insane on that team. LSU won the game, but Auburn played them close. LSU did not have a good defense at all, but they outscored Auburn, and Auburn's offense was not good enough to keep up with LSU's offense. Therefore, they didn't have the offense. Therefore, LSU's defense looked like stars because their offense couldn't throw 10 yards down the field or even 5 yards down the field, if even. But what I was most concerned about with Auburn in that game was the physicality. They didn't look physical at all in that game. They didn't look physical at all against New Mexico State. The only game that I thought they looked really, really tough in was Alabama. I think the physicality is the one that's getting me the most. I think it's getting me the most. I think I want to see a little bit of physicality in this spring game. I'm not talking about too much because you don't want to hurt anybody, right? You don't want to hurt anyone. But at the same time, what I want to see out of Auburn and Hugh Freeze is one, physicality. I want to see some physical football. I want to see if they can man up with some of these teams up front like they used to, because they used to could do it. They really did. Auburn got physically outmatched and just dominated by LSU 48-19. I think it was the score. 48-18 was the score. It was rough in Tiger Stadium. It was rough. I want to see more of Auburn okay, you're gonna have to come play Auburn. You know what I'm saying? You have to come play Auburn. It's his second year, guys. It's Hugh Freeze's second year. He wasn't gonna have it all together in his first season as Auburn coach. All right, he wasn't gonna have it all together. But I'm gonna tell you this: second season, going into the third, we may be seeing some more changes and in Auburn maybe taking some more strides as Hugh Freeze's vision keeps just getting, pouring into that program. Let's see the physicality. That's what I want to see during the spring. That's what I want to see, during, up front for Auburn during it all. That's one. And then the main thing another main thing I want to see, I want to see physicality on defense. That's another thing. Defense was okay, but I want to see how well they pick it up, especially in the linebacker spot, how they're going to address some of the moves that they're going to make it linebacker and what's going to look like up in the middle for Auburn. That's second. Number three, I want to see who's playing quarterback. I want to see what quarterback what's going to happen at quarterback for Auburn. Let's just dive deep into Auburn and their roster as I pull it up right now. So going into the 2024 roster, Peyton Thorne, still the quarterback, still active quarterback on the roster. 1 year of eligibility left. Will Peyton Thorne be the guy? That's the real question. So Peyton Thorne's still there. I was looking in my notes. Peyton Thorne's still there. I think, as far as I know, Robbie Ashford is not there. So what's the quarterback situation going to look like? Robbie Ashford is playing for South Carolina. He is Robbie Ashford's South Carolina's quarterback, which soon enough we will be doing a spring outlook on South Carolina and seeing how Robbie Ashford can replace Spencer Rattler. In fact, you know what? We'll do that next week. We'll do a spring outlook on South Carolina next Tuesday on Pigskin Frenzy. South Carolina spring outlook. Tune in to Pigskin Frenzy episode 111 on South Carolina spring outlook. So what's it going to look like? What's the quarterback play going to look like? Are they going to have a different quarterback, or are they going to have Peyton Thorne? I think Peyton Thorne showed a lot of not so good tendencies, to put it lightly, last season. So can they develop Peyton Thorne? That's a main question. If they're going to keep Peyton, who's going to be their quarterback? If it is Peyton Thorne, are they going to develop him even further? That's a real big question for Auburn and their offense. What's it going to look like? So that's the top three things that I kind of want to see from the Auburn Tigers. Honestly, if you want to keep it real, is what's the play calling going to look like? Is Hugh Freeze going to bring back some of that spark that he brought at Ole Miss? Is he going to bring it into Auburn? That's one. Two, we got to see some physicality in the linebacker spot on defense, and we got to see some physicality on both sides of the ball up front, defensive line and offensive line. That's kind of a 2A and 2B scenario there. Number three, who's the quarterback? And if it is Peyton Thorne, can they develop him to not just run? Because Peyton Thorne, in the Iron Bowl, in the Alabama game, he showed some stride running the football. He did. He looked like a good runner out there. But can he throw the ball? Can he throw the ball deep? He did some medium type passes, some medium crossing route type passes against Alabama, and he scored. The receivers made plays for Peyton Thorne and that Auburn offense. But can he go deep? Can he make good decisions? Can he be the quarterback that Hugh Freeze and Auburn needs this season? That is a big question going in to the 2024 season and into spring football, because this can bleed into the fall. And I don't think we don't need any more miscues going into the fall, especially to try to kick off Hugh Freeze's second season as the Auburn coach. They're putting a lot of stock into Hugh Freeze. They're putting a lot of equity and investment into this to build Auburn back and to make Auburn just, solid, to make Auburn a solid institution, to make Auburn, make Auburn football be feared again. Make them watch out for Auburn football again. So let's see what happens. That's pretty much my spring outlook on Auburn. and what I want to kind of see from them. Let's see what happens. Let's just see what happens. And we're going to have spring results coming up for April 6th. We're going to have all these spring results probably the following episode of, after April 6th, that following Tuesday. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens with Auburn, and let's see what happens in their spring game. That's just my spring outlook for Auburn. Let's go with one last SEC team before we, conclude them. Conclude the episode of Pigskin Frenzy with two ACC teams. So one last SEC team, April. Let's talk about going into April still. Let's talk about April 13th. Alabama, Saturday, April 13th. This will probably not be the following Tuesday after April 6th because we're talking about Auburn. But April 13th, Alabama, 4 p.m. on ESPN, 4 o'clock on ESPN, the A-Day game. Kalen DeBoer's first A-Day game. This is what I wanted to see right here. What's it going to look like? And it's a big thing. It's a big thing because the greatest of all time has retired. He's no longer the head coach at Alabama. Nick Saban retired from Alabama on January 10th of 2024. I remember the date because it's a big deal. It's a big deal. I remember the date. So you look at it and you're thinking to yourself, oh man, what's it going to look like? What's everything going to look like, right? When now that Nick Saban's gone? And that's a big question that I'm going to ask going into the spring. They look tough. Now, I'm going to say this. Physically, they look pretty tough and they look good. Kalen DeBoer is trying to get them physically ready to play some football, not just in the spring, but in the 2024 season. Here's the big thing. And this is a big outlook for me, kicking off Alabama's spring outlook. What's it going to look like under Kalen DeBoer? What's the leadership going to look like? What are the players' mentality going to look like? And what's the shift going to look like from Saban to DeBoer? Is it going to be as tough as Saban? Is it going to be equally as tough as Saban? Is it going to, in a way, is it going to, is anything going to, is it going to look, similar to what Washington looked like last year? Who knows? They got two co-offensive coordinators, Nick Sheridan, the old Titans coach at Washington, and co-offensive coordinator and wide receivers coach, DeMarcus Shepard, both of them calling plays for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Is their system going to be working? Is Jalen Milroe going to thrive under their system? That's a big key right there. What I'm looking at is at safety and at secondary. You're losing a lot of guys at secondary. How are we going to replace a lot of those guys at secondary? You lost Caleb Downs to Ohio State. You lost Terrion Arnold and Kalei McKinstry to the draft. What's it going to look like for Alabama going into the 2024 season? And what's it going to look like? You got Damani Jackson, and he looked, and Damani Jackson, by the way, if you haven't heard of Damani Jackson, unbelievable talent, by the way. He could play some football. All right, Damani Jackson could. Damani Jackson, he transferred from USC. USC transfer coming in to probably help out a little bit of that secondary. You got Malachi Moore still there. And that really, really helps things, that veteran leadership for Alabama secondary. And you got Damani Jackson coming in from USC to help out Malachi Moore and a lot of, the younger talent in the secondary at Alabama. Damani Jackson, he is a veteran. He knows what he's doing. Played at USC, but is he going to adjust to the style of play that Kalen DeBoer and Alabama are going to bring in the SEC? So we don't know yet. We don't know yet. The secondary, let's see what the secondary is looking like. Kane Womack, that's another thing that I want to look out for, and that's my second spring outlook. Ties into the secondary. That's one. Secondary, that's the big thing right there. Secondary is number one. Number two is Kane Womack. How is his plays and how's the defense going to look under him? What's it going to look like? I don't know if you guys have heard of, of Kane Womack. Kane Womack was the former head coach of he was the former head coach of South Alabama. Excuse me. Sorry. He was the defensive coordinator for Indiana when Kalen Bower was the offensive coordinator at Indiana. So go figure there. Kane Womack is the defensive coordinator. He left as the head coach to be the defensive coordinator of Alabama. Let's talk about his defensive scheme. Because his defensive scheme is, kind of unique. It's a 4-2-5. Four linemen. Four linemen, two linebackers, rotating in and out secondary. 4-2-5. And there's going to be one safety in the back. 4-2-5. How is that going to work at Alabama? I want to know, because it helps against the spread. It helps when you're spreading out. If you're running zone, it's going to help if you're spreading out all over the field, okay? So 4-2-5 is not bad, but when you look at everything, if you look at the running plays and that a lot of other teams do, how is that going to stop the run? How's it going to stop a lot of other things? I think the 4-2-5 is a decent scheme, but is it going to work at Alabama? Is it going to work in the style of play that the SEC brings? That's a big question. It's a huge, huge question. For Alabama. What's Kane Womack going to do, and how's his defensive scheme going to work? That's number 2. Number 3 spring outlook is this for Alabama. Quarterback, Jalen Milroe. Can Jalen Milroe, he has a great deep ball. He has a fantastic deep ball. He's money with that deep ball. He showed it during the Iron Bowl when he hit the game winner with now Texas wide receiver Isaiah Bond. Can he develop as an overall quarterback, not just running the ball, not just throwing the deep ball? We're talking about short passes, slit passes, medium passes, ball security, developing mentally as a leader off the field. Can he develop as a better football player in the spring under Kalen Bower and Nick Sheridan and Jamarcus Shepard's system? Can he do that? Can he develop and thrive into that system? Right now, Kalen Bower has said, and I quote, "We're always open to competition in the quarterback battle, but Jalen Milroe will get first-team snaps." Because he started at Alabama last year, it's only fair that he starts the spring and is looking like he's going to start in 2024. He's in the preseason Heisman odds, top 10 in the preseason Heisman odds right now. Jalen Milroe is. He finished top 10 or top 15 in Heisman voting last season. Listen, Jalen Milroe has presented some good attributes, but as a quarterback, can he develop a lot better than what he was doing last season? 3 big things for Alabama's outlook for spring. 3 big things. How's the culture going to be? I'm sorry, that's 4 things technically. How's the culture going to be there? Is he going to be tough? That's 1A and 1B. Is he going to be tough as Saban? Number 2, the secondary. How's the secondary going to look? And is Damani Jackson and Malachi Moore going to replace Terrion Arnold, Kool-Aid McKinstry, and Caleb Downs, who just went to Ohio State? That's 2. 3, the scheme of Kane Womack. How is that going to play into everything going up against SEC defenses? How's that going to look during the spring? How's it going to look? That's 3. 4. Number 4, how is Jalen Milroe going to develop as a better quarterback during the spring? Those are the things that I want to get answered. Those are the things I want to see during the spring for Alabama. So that was my Alabama spring outlook. Those 4 things, jot them down. I want to see them during the A-Day game for Alabama on April 13th. Guys, 2 more teams before we conclude today's episode of Pigskin Frenzy. Let's talk about little old Clemson, as Dabo Swinney calls them. We're going to the ACC. Little old Clemson. Remember what I said during the offseason. I said during the offseason, Florida State was going to win the ACC. It was going to be their year. Jordan Travis, Johnny Wilson, Keon Coleman. It was going to be their year. Trey Benson, Lawrence Toafili is gonna be their year. Defensively, Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, it's gonna be their year. Kept saying that. They're going to beat Clemson in a rematch. They ended up playing Louisville. They ended up beating Louisville. They won the ACC championship. They ended up beating Clemson earlier in the season in a fantastic game. Which, by the way, I did not put that in my top 50 of games, but I needed to. I needed to put that in my top 50. That's in my honorable mentions. Just letting you know, guys, know that was a fantastic and incredible game last season. I'm kicking myself for not putting that game in there because that deserved to be on there. Fantastic game. So a mistake on my part. I will not let that happen again for next season. But Clemson was second. They weren't going to win, in my opinion, that year. But it's looking like this could be the year again where Clemson takes a hold of the ACC once more. Cade Klubnik is back as their junior quarterback. He's here. Clemson's here. We can try to rock and roll. Now, I want to see what's going to happen. I want to see what's going to happen with just in general. I want to see what's going to happen with Cade Klubnik. I want to see what's going to happen with, the team as a whole. Will Cade Klubnik keep developing? That's number one question on Clemson, on my Clemson spring outlook. Will Cade Klubnik keep developing? He showed some promise. He's won some good games. He beat North Carolina. He did beat North Carolina. He showed some good promise. But, big but here, will he keep developing, and will he become the quarterback they need him to be to take them back to the ACC championship game and back to where they once were? And that was to be a playoff team. That's one. Two, I want to see mentally, and this is a big one, mentally how Dabo Swinney is in presenting everything. My big concern about Clemson is the use of the resources in today's college football, because you got to use them. You got to use NIL. You got to use the transfer portal. He doesn't use it enough, and I'm worried that Clemson could go possibly start dipping a little bit more because he's not using those resources. I think that is a big concern for me. I want to see what he's capitalized on during the offseason. That's it. That I think, and that's what I want to see. I want to see if he's, I want to see if he can bring that program back to where it once was. Not only where it once was, but to use those resources to help bring it back to where it was. That's number two. So number one is Cade Klubnik's development. Keep on developing. Number two is developing, getting using those resources to develop your team more and to bring them back to where they were. Number three, and this is my last point for this one, for Clemson. Number three, Will Shipley's gone. So you got no Will Shipley. You do have one player who's a great running back. He's 6'1". He's 230 pounds. He's your senior running back. And he played really, really well last year, rotating with Will Shipley, and that's Phil Maffa. Phil Maffa is an animal. Who's going to be behind Phil Maffa, though? Phil Maffa is going to be your starting running back, but who's going to help Phil Maffa carry the load? How is he going to transition into a full-time starter? And who's going to help Phil? Like I said, who's going to help Phil Maffa split the snaps and rotate in and out with him? That's a big question there. That's a huge question for Clemson. Honestly, you got Phil Maffa. I'm trying to see if I can look on my notes here and look at some rosters for the Clemson Tigers. You got Phil Maffa. As I look on my notes, can't look. You got another one. Excuse me. excuse me, redshirt. You got one viable option on the rosters as I scroll through my notes. You got one viable option, and I want to see how he does. Keith Adams Jr., running back sophomore, redshirt sophomore, 5'9", 215 pounds. I want to see how number 19 does, Keith Adams Jr. for Clemson and Dabo Swinney's offense this season, Garrett Riley's offense this season. So Phil Maffa, who's going to be behind him? That's the number 3 point. The number 2 point is, how are they going to use their resources? How are they going to use their resources? With how is it going to play into going into 2024, not using those resources as well, like the transfer portal, like NIL. That's number 2 for Clemson. And number 1, K Klubnik's development to keep being a better quarterback. I want to see all those things during the spring from Clemson football. I want to see how they're going to do spring. I want to see how they're going to do in the spring. Clemson, their spring game is at 1 p.m., 1 o'clock p.m., ESPN Plus on Saturday, April 6th. So tune into that for Clemson. Another one, and this is my last one before we conclude today's episode of Pigskin Frenzy, is North Carolina State. Throw them up. Let's throw them up. The Wolfpack. Throw them up. 2 o'clock p.m., ACC Network on Saturday, April 6th. We'll give our results to Auburn, Clemson, and NC State on the following Tuesday on Pigskin Frenzy. But NC State, our spring outlook on North Carolina State. How are they going to look? And this is what I've been keep asking myself, because there are 2 teams that come to mind when I think of the ACC right now. It's Clemson and it's Miami. Those 2 teams right there. But who's that third option? You're going to think, oh, it's Florida State. I'm not going to count out Florida State. Florida State, Mike Norvell is a great coach, great head coach. He produced a heck of a team. He can still produce a heck of a team, especially with DJ Uiagalelei, the Clemson and Oregon State transfer quarterback now at Florida State. He can produce some talent. But what about NC State? What about NC State? What about, everything going on with them? What about, what's going on there? Because they replace a really, really good, really good, defense and special defensive player in Peyton Wilson. He is one of my favorite linebackers in the draft, and probably one of my favorite defensive players in the draft. Peyton Wilson's an animal, and he was a solid player, last season. So number 1 for NC State, who replaces Peyton Wilson? Who replaces him up in the middle? Who replaces him physically as one of the top, as a big time physical threat at linebacker? Who replaces that at linebacker for the Wolfpack? Who does that? That's my big question. Number two, and as we keep on going into my notes here, how's the running game going to look? That's another big question for me. How's the running game going to look like? You got Jordan Poole, redshirt junior, 230 pounds, 6 foot, solid speed, brings a good balanced attack of power and speed. Jordan Poole does. So how's the running game going to look with him? That's my big question for NC State. Is the running game going to look solid like it did last year? Jordan Poole, solid back. Let's see what he does in the running game. That's number 2. So number 1, who replaces Peyton Wilson at linebacker? Number 2, how's the running game going to look? Last but not least, number 3. As I pull up here, can Brennan Armstrong lead? Excuse me, as I'm going to my notes here, not trying to pause. Can Brennan Armstrong? That's where I was finding. This is where I was going. My point. Brennan Armstrong. Can Brennan Armstrong lead this team to a could be a potential ACC championship? Can he lead them there? Brennan Armstrong's a solid talent. He played at Virginia. He's a graduate transfer. He's under his last year of eligibility at NC State. He was a really, really good player for Virginia. Can he lead the Wolfpack to prominence? Can he lead them to some upset victories? And can he develop more in the spring and show that he's a true leader of this team and he's a true dynamic threat for the ACC going into the college football season for the ACC to look out for? Can he show that for the Wolfpack? So those are my top three points for the spring outlook of the NC State. How's the running game going to look? Who's going to replace Peyton Wilson at linebacker mainly? And how's Brennan Armstrong going to develop even more to lead this team to could be prominence to a ACC championship for the 2024 season? That was my spring outlook on NC State. That was my spring outlook on Clemson, Alabama, Auburn, and our spring game result for Missouri. We're out of time. Big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by me. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple. All you have to do, just share around with others and follow on there as well. X, Instagram, and Facebook. All you got to do is type in Pigskin Frenzy, follow, like the pages there. You'll get episode updates. You will get news and highlights from across college and NFL football. You will get trivia questions on Instagram stories. Go and answer today's, as well as all things of the date for Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. You will find our merchandise stores coming soon. You're going to find an About Me page on there to get to know more about me. Contact me on there as well. I'll try to answer everything that you message me on there, as well as affiliations page, which go to the Beard Club. Get your grooming needs met. Spring 25. Use the code for 25% off on every order. Ship it to your house. Body wash, hair products, and most importantly, beard grooming kits to meet your facial hair needs and grooming needs. Guys, Linktree, go and check it out. Beard Club, thank you for being our partner. Guys, a big thank you again for just taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage. Guys, Thursday, NFL Day today. Or not today, but Thursday, NFL Day on Thursday, NFL edition. We're going to be talking about some more pro days, talking about, some more coverage on the 2024 NFL draft with these pro days. We're going to talk about Michigan's pro day. We're going to talk about LSU's pro day. We're going to talk about North Carolina's pro day and talk about JJ McCarthy, the latest buzz on him, because there's a lot of stuff going on there. We're also going to talk about some of the rule changes that have been applied to the NFL. So stay tuned to Thursday. Have a lot to talk about on Thursday. Until Thursday for the NFL edition of Pigskin Frenzy, I'm Joel Norris signing off. We will see you then. For everybody out there, please and always stay the course.